Admiral Park stood at the viewport of Earth's diplomatic vessel, watching the massive Dracarys ships surround them. Her uniform was intentionally plain, hiding her true rank. To the aliens, she was just Representative Park, another harmless human envoy.
"They're hailing us again," Lieutenant Kim said quietly. "The Dracary commander seems impatient."
Park nodded calmly. "Let them wait another minute. We need to appear appropriately intimidated." For 20 years since first contact, humanity had played this careful game. The galactic powers, especially the Dracary Imperium, believed humans were naturally weak, technologically backward, and militarily insignificant. This was no accident. Earth's Unified Council had crafted this image with great care. What the aliens didn't know was that beneath Jupiter's moons, inside hollowed-out asteroids, and in secret facilities across Earth's solar system, humanity was building something unprecedented. "Open the channel," Park finally said. She lowered her shoulders and adopted the slightly fearful expression that aliens had come to expect from humans. The viewscreen flickered to life, revealing Commander Du of the Dracary fleet. His scaled face showed the typical disdain they held for humans. "Representative Park," he said, not bothering to hide his contempt. "You will surrender your mining rights to the Proxima system immediately, or we will consider it an act of aggression." "Of course, Commander," Park replied with practiced meekness. "Earth wishes only for peaceful coexistence." "We will begin withdrawal immediately." After the transmission ended, her demeanor changed instantly. "Send the data package to command," she ordered. "We've collected enough information on their new shield configurations." Later that day, in the hidden command center beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, Admiral Park met with the Unified Council. The room was simple but housed the most advanced technology on Earth. Council leader Han studied the reports with a serious expression. "The Dracary are becoming more aggressive," Han noted. "They've taken 3 more systems this month alone." Park nodded. "They believe we're too afraid to stop them. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to establish a military outpost near Neptune next." "Perfect," said Defense Minister Yu. "That's exactly where we want them." He activated a holographic display showing a network of hidden sensors and weapons platforms throughout the solar system. "Operation Silent Watch is nearly complete. We can monitor their every move without detection." Park walked to the center of the room. "For 20 years, we've studied their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. Our scientists have developed systems far beyond anything the Dracary can imagine. And they still think our fastest ships can barely reach light speed," added Admiral Seo with a small smile. "How much longer must we maintain this act?" asked a younger council member. "Each year, more colonies suffer under Dracary rule." Park understood the frustration. She felt it too. But rushing would undo decades of careful planning. "Just a little longer," she assured them. "The Neptune station will be the final piece. When they move against it, we'll have everything we need." After the meeting, Park visited the underground shipyards. Here, hidden from even orbital scans, Earth's true fleet was taking shape. The vessels looked nothing like the primitive ships humans showed to the galaxy. These were elegant, deadly, and incorporated technologies the Dracary believed impossible. Captain Ryu was waiting for her beside the newest vessel, the EDF Horizon. "She's beautiful," Park said, admiring the sleek lines of the warship. "And completely invisible to Dracary sensors," Ryu added proudly. "We've incorporated the phase shift technology. She can literally slip between their defensive grid without detection." Park placed her hand against the cool metal of the ship's hull. "Has the crew been selected?" "The best we have. They've been training in simulation for 3 years. When the time comes, they'll be ready." That night, in her private quarters, Park reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Dracary were growing bolder, believing that humans would always back down. Their latest demands were becoming unreasonable even by their standards. A message from General Lee flashed on her screen: "Neptune station preparations complete. All personnel in place." Park sent a simple reply: "Acknowledged." "Maintain the facade." She stood by her window, looking up at the stars. 20 years of pretending to be weak. 20 years of bowing heads and speaking softly. 20 years of watching the Dracarys bully and threaten smaller worlds.
Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn the truth. Humans weren't weak, they were just polite. And politeness had its limits. The Neptune research outpost gleamed against the darkness of space, its outer shell designed to look basic and outdated. Most passing ships would see nothing but a simple human facility, hardly worth a second glance. This was by design. The station's true purpose remained hidden beneath layers of false readings and carefully crafted deception. Inside, Dr. Song worked tirelessly with her team, analyzing the latest Dracarys shield modulation patterns. The data Admiral Park had collected was proving invaluable. "These frequency shifts are fascinating," Dr. Song told her assistant. "Their shields adapt in predictable cycles.
If we time our weapon pulses just right."
The station shook suddenly, cutting her off. Warning lights flashed red across every screen. "What's happening?" she demanded. The young technician's face went pale as he checked the sensors. "Dracarys warships. 3 heavy cruisers just appeared from hyperspace. They're firing on us." Dr. Song stared in disbelief. The outpost was registered as a civilian research station. Even the Dracarys followed basic galactic laws against attacking non-military targets. "Send the emergency signal," she ordered. "And activate Protocol Midnight." Throughout the station, hidden compartments opened automatically. Researchers grabbed small devices and pressed them against the station's data cores. The devices would ensure nothing valuable fell into Dracarys hands. The station shook again, more violently this time. Hull breach warnings blared. "They're not even asking us to surrender," the technician said in shock. Dr. Song understood then. This wasn't about capturing the station. This was a message. On Earth, Admiral Park was awakened by the urgent call. She listened in grim silence as General Lee delivered the news. "Neptune Station has been destroyed. Initial reports show 3,000 civilians dead. No survivors." Park's face remained composed, but her hands gripped the edge of her desk so hard her knuckles turned white. "Their excuse? The Dracarys claim it was a weapons research facility. They say they found proof of illegal technology development." "A convenient lie," Park said quietly. "What about the emergency data transmission? Received before the station was destroyed. Dr. Song managed to send everything." Park nodded. Dr. Song had been a friend. Her sacrifice would not be in vain. "And the Council's response? They've called an emergency session. You're expected at headquarters within the hour." The Unified Council chamber was silent as Admiral Park entered. The 12 leaders of Earth's government watched her with solemn expressions. Council Leader Han spoke first. "The Dracarys have gone too far. We've already filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Council." "Which they've already dismissed," Minister Yu added bitterly. "They claim we're exaggerating, as usual." The Dracarys representative called it unfortunate collateral damage in their security operations. Park wasn't surprised. The galaxy saw humans as weak complainers, always whining but never fighting back. "It's time," she said simply. The council members exchanged looks. They had prepared for this moment for decades, but now that it had arrived, the weight of the decision hung heavy in the room. Leader Han nodded slowly. "The vote is unanimous. The council authorizes contingency sunrise." Park bowed her head briefly. "I'll begin immediately. The Dracarys must believe our response is typical ineffective protests and nothing more." "And the reality?" asked the youngest council member. "The reality," Park said, "will become clear to them soon enough." 2 days later, a small human transport ship named the Starlight traveled near Saturn's rings. It was a simple vessel, the kind the Dracarys often stopped and searched just to remind humans of their place. Captain Choi stood calmly on the bridge as a Dracarys cruiser appeared and locked onto them with tractor beams. "Human vessel," the Dracarys captain's harsh voice came through the comm system. "Prepare to be boarded and searched.
Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction. Choi's crew looked to him nervously. They knew what was coming, but the moment was still tense.
"This is Captain Choi of the Earth Transport Starlight," he replied in an even voice.
"May I ask the reason for this inspection?"
The Dracarys captain laughed. "You need no reason, human.
Prepare to be boarded."
Choi nodded to his communications officer, who sent a single encrypted signal back to Earth.
"Dracary vessel," Choi said, his tone changing slightly, "we apologize, but politeness has its limits." The confused Dracary captain was about to respond when every system on his ship suddenly went dark. Engines, weapons, life support, all disabled in an instant by technology he had never encountered before.
On the Starlight's bridge, Choi watched the dead Dracary ship drift helplessly. "Send the message," he ordered. His communications officer nodded and transmitted a simple text to the crippled Dracary cruiser, "Consider this a warning." Back on Earth, Admiral Park received confirmation that the first demonstration had been completed successfully. It was a small beginning, but an important one. The breaking point had been reached.
After 20 years of patience, humanity was finally dropping its mask.
"Prepare the fleet," she ordered.
"It's time to show the galaxy who we really are." Admiral Kong of the Dracary Imperium stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance.
50 warships, the might of the Third Fleet, surrounded him.
Their mission was simple: teach the humans a lesson they would never forget. "Status report," he demanded. "All systems at full power, Admiral," his second-in-command replied. "We will reach Earth's solar system in 20 minutes." Kong smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth.
This would be the easiest victory of his long career. Humans had no real defense fleet, just a handful of short-range ships that could barely reach their own moon. Their weapons were primitive, their shields laughable. "Send word to all captains," Kong ordered.
"I want minimal damage to Earth's infrastructure. The factories and farms will be useful once we take control." As the fleet approached Earth's solar system, Kong reviewed the plan one final time. They would bypass the outer planets and head straight for Earth. A show of force would bring the humans to their knees. They would surrender quickly, as they always did. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out suddenly, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from Earth's moon." Kong frowned. "Explain." "I can't, sir.
Nothing in our database matches these signatures." Before Kong could respond, his tactical officer pointed at the main viewscreen.
"Sir, look." From behind Earth's moon, ships began to appear.
Not the bulky, slow vessels the Dracary expected, but something entirely different. They were sleek, elegant, and moved with impossible speed.
"How many?" Kong demanded.
30, no, 40 vessels, the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking.
"They're unlike anything we've seen before." Kong wasn't worried. His fleet still outnumbered them. "Prepare weapons. Show these humans what real power looks like."
Just then, all communication channels lit up with an incoming message. On the screen appeared a human female in a military uniform Kong had never seen before.
"This is Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Force," she said calmly.
"Your previous incursions were tolerated.
The attack on Neptune was not. You have one opportunity to withdraw." Kong laughed loudly.
Even if these ships were unexpected, his fleet was the pride of the Dracary Imperium. "You have no concept of true warfare, human," he replied.
"We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your pathetic fleet cannot stand against us." Admiral Park's expression didn't change.
"And yet," she said softly, "you never bothered to check if we were actually weak, or just being polite."
The transmission ended. Kong ordered the attack immediately.
What followed wasn't a battle but a demonstration. The Earthships moved in ways that seemed to ignore normal physics.
They appeared in one location, then instantly in another. Traditional targeting systems couldn't lock onto them. "Fire at will," Kong shouted.
The Dracary fleet released a barrage of energy weapons.
The human ships didn't even try to dodge. Instead, the blasts simply passed through them, as if they weren't there at all.
Impossible, Kong whispered.
Then the human fleet responded. Small, silver projectiles launched from their ships.
When they reached the Dracarys vessels, they didn't explode or impact the shields. They simply phased through them, attaching to the hulls.
One by one, Dracarys ships began powering down.
Engines, weapons, life support, all functional, but no longer responding to commands.
What's happening? Kong demanded.
His chief engineer's voice was filled with panic.
They've somehow bypassed our shields completely.
These devices are controlling our systems. In less than 20 minutes, 47 Dracarys ships hung dead in space.
Only Kang's flagship and 2 others remained operational, and they were surrounded.
Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, we should retreat. Before Kong could respond, Admiral Park's voice came through again.
Your ship will now be boarded. Do not resist. Moments later, humans in sleek battle armor appeared directly on the bridge.
They hadn't used shuttles or transporters, they had simply appeared. Kong reached for his weapon, but found himself unable to move. Some invisible force held him perfectly still.
Admiral Park walked onto the bridge, looking at him with calm eyes.
You're wondering how this is possible, she said. After all, humans are weak, primitive creatures, barely worth noticing. She nodded to one of her soldiers, who activated a holographic display. It showed Earth, but not as Kong knew it. The image revealed massive underground cities, hidden shipyards inside asteroids, and weapons platforms concealed within the gas giants. Humans evolved on a death world, Park explained. Natural disasters, predators, and harsh conditions that would exterminate most sentient species were our nursery.
We learned to adapt, to innovate, to overcome threats far worse than the Dracarys. Kong struggled to comprehend what he was seeing.
But for 20 years, you submitted to us. You gave up territories, resources.
We studied you, Park replied simply.
Every encounter, every concession was carefully planned.
We learned your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses.
And we developed countermeasures for everything. She leaned closer to him.
What you're experiencing now is only a fraction of what we can do. We chose peace first. Remember that. We always choose peace first.
As Kang's ship was towed toward Earth, news of the Dracarys defeat spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had feared the Imperium for centuries watched in amazement as their mightiest fleet was disabled by the supposedly weak humans. The revelation had begun.
Humanity's mask had finally dropped to the Dracarys homeworld of Dracarys Prime glowed like a red jewel in the viewscreen of Admiral Park's flagship, the Defender. The planet was surrounded by an impressive defense grid, hundreds of orbital platforms, weapon satellites, and automated fighters. For centuries, no enemy had penetrated this system. Status report, Park requested as they approached.
Commander Han studied her console carefully.
Their defensive grid is exactly as our intelligence indicated. They're still thinking in traditional terms, expecting us to use conventional approaches. Park nodded. And the rest of our fleet?
In position around key Dracarys military bases in 12 systems.
All awaiting your command. Park looked at the red planet again.
For 20 years, the Dracarys had believed humans were weak and fearful. They had taken advantage of that perceived weakness, bullying Earth's colonies and stealing resources. The attack on Neptune Station had been their final mistake.
Begin Operation Thunderbolt, she ordered. Throughout the bridge, officers sent coded signals to the waiting fleet. Then Park watched as her ship and 20 others around her seemed to shimmer and fade slightly. Phase shift complete, the tactical officer announced. We're now operating on a different quantum frequency than their sensors can detect. To Dracarys observers, it appeared as if the human ships had simply vanished. In reality, they were still there, just slightly out of phase with normal space. It was technology the humans had developed and hidden for over a decade. The Defender and its escort fleet moved directly through the Dracarys defense grid. Weapon platforms fired blindly into empty space, unable to find targets their sensors couldn't see. The automated fighters flew in confused patterns, their targeting systems useless against an enemy that technically wasn't there.
Park's fleet positioned itself directly above the main military command center on Dracaris Prime. Only then did they shift back into normal space, appearing like ghosts becoming solid. Target their military communications satellites and weapon depots only, Park ordered.
No civilian targets.
Precise beams of energy shot from the human ships, disabling rather than destroying the Dracarys military infrastructure. On the planet below, panic spread among the Dracarys leadership as they lost contact with their forces across the Empire.
Send the message, Park said. On screens across Dracaris Prime, Admiral Park's face appeared. People of the Dracarys Imperium. Your military forces are being neutralized. No harm will come to civilians who remain peaceful.
This action is in response to decades of aggression, culminating in the unprovoked attack on Neptune Station. Humanity has chosen to end your military's reign of terror.
Similar scenes played out across the galaxy.
On the Dracarys colony of Vesh, Commander June led a small team that disabled an entire military base without firing a shot.
Their technology simply shut down the Dracarys weapons, rendering them useless.
On the mining world of Caraxus, Captain Min's ships freed thousands of slave laborers from a dozen species, all while disabling the Dracarys overseer's ability to call for reinforcements. In the Galactic Council chambers, representatives from 100 worlds watched in stunned silence as reports came in from across the galaxy. The mighty Dracarys military machine was being systematically dismantled by the supposedly weak humans.
How is this possible? Asked the ancient Tavari representative, his four eyes blinking rapidly in confusion.
The Meridian diplomat, whose species had suffered under Dracarys rule for generations, leaned forward.
We saw what they wanted us to see. They chose peace first. We mistook that for weakness.
On the subjugated world of Nara, the native population watched in amazement as Dracarys warships fell from the sky, gently lowered by some invisible force. The cruel governors who had ruled them for centuries were suddenly powerless, their weapons and communication devices dead in their hands.
When human ships landed, the Narans expected new conquerors.
Instead, Captain Hyun stepped out unarmed and spoke in their language.
We have no desire to rule you, she told them. We only wish to free you from those who would. Similar uprisings began across Dracarys space. Species that had lived in fear for generations suddenly found courage, knowing the Dracarys could no longer strike them down. Back on the Defender, Admiral Park received reports from across the galaxy.
The counteroffensive was proceeding exactly as planned. Dracarys military capability was being systematically neutralized with minimal casualties on either side.
The Galactic Council has called an emergency session, Commander Han reported. They're requesting your presence. Park nodded. Set course for Council Station.
It's time they understood who they've been dealing with all these years. As the Defender prepared to leave Dracarys space, Park looked at the ships around her. The fleet humans had built in secret, the technology they had developed while pretending to be primitive, the strategies they had crafted while appearing passive, all of it had come together perfectly.
The galaxy was changing.
The balance of power that had existed for centuries was shifting. And at the center of that shift was humanity, no longer hiding its true nature.